Right, so last theme is resilience, and I know Marco's going to need to leave in a few minutes, so I'm not going to say a whole lot more. But Marco, why don't you start us off by talking about the importance of resilience in the sports career?
Yeah, you know what? I think resilience kind of sums up everything that we've talked about: the confidence, being adaptable, self-improvement, and all those kind of combine into being resilient as far as during certain times. I mean, I hate to keep bringing this up also, but we talked about the pandemic, being resilient during these situations, during any situation. And as an athlete, oftentimes you have to be resilient based on what's going on in the game. And you know, every time I work with I think someone had mentioned, I think was it Andy, that you had mentioned that you whenever you look for interns or you look for individuals, you want people that have also worked in or have played sports. And it's kind of interesting because being part of a team and in a game shows a lot of character of the individual, not just in life, because there's so many changes going on during the game. Whether you're and it's a quarter, if it's based on a quarter system, if you're based on a half, you may be up 1 minute, now you're down another minute, so you can either kind of knock yourself down or you kind of so there's so many emotions, there's so many things going on in there. Being a good team and stuff like that, so being resilient during those situations is one of the key components.
Very good, Marco. Thank you. And Marco, I appreciate you joining us. And Danny, I know you're going to have to jump off in a minute as well. So thank you both for joining us and all your contributions. And we'll definitely look forward to being in touch again soon. All right, so staying with the theme of resilience, I wanted to have Annie and Matt also weigh in. And, obviously we hear about, all the setbacks that various athletes have. So what's coming from a severe injury like Alex Smith did, or to, being a losing streak, or even controversy in your, personal life, how that impacts. So, Andy, if you could just talk next too about just the importance of resilience for a sports career.
Sure. Like I said, with my favorite player, Mario Lemieux from the Penguins, he had cancer and he came back and, still was able to finish his career and even came back from retirement and played even longer. So, I mean, I felt like he was always an example for me when I was young. In my first full-time job, I felt like I hit a plateau. One of my friends had told me usually 10 years, you hit that point where you feel like you need to change organizations. And even though I didn't necessarily stay on this straight path, I had, while I was still doing scoreboard work for games, I was also doing events. So, helped cover concerts. So I was getting different things, but I kind of felt like I'm not going to go any further. So instead of just staying ho-hum and, woe is me, I moved to LA and started a new career, joined a new sport, which actually is my favorite sport. So life isn't just what happens, it's how you respond to it. Excuse me. And, when you're working events, anything can go wrong, video doesn't work, something's missing, whatever. You have to be able to bounce back, respond, and make it successful, For the pandemic here, we're playing our games out of our practice facility. So our first one was postponed. So you've got to keep, responding no matter what's being put in front of you. I know, this season's so weird. And then even the next season, a lot of my seasonal staff, they're going on to other jobs. They found other full-time gigs, not necessarily in sports. So I'm going to have to hire pretty much all new seasonal staff, new part-time staff, full-time staff teams are needing to change. So you're going to need to teach and have patience with them as well and adapt and bounce back and know other individuals, hey, realize we're going to have new people. We're, like was already mentioned, we're entering a new time. So you've got to be able to respond to it. And, as a producer, on an individual game, things will go wrong. You might call something wrong. You might hit the goal horn for the other team. You might send up fireworks for the wrong team. That's happened, so you can't dwell on it. You can't let it snowball. You've got to respond and look back later and go, what went wrong? How can I prevent it? But otherwise, it'll become quicksand and it'll just get worse and worse. So you can't dwell on things. You got to just respond and learn from it. And, one of the things I always do as a producer is just get everyone to move on when something goes wrong. And then afterwards go, okay, what happened? And try and assess the situation. Was it just the equipment failed? There's nothing you can do. Okay. Was it someone messed up? Was it how I asked them? Was it how I called? Did I check in advance things were ready? So those are all things you learn. But like I said, life isn't just what happens. It's how you respond to it. You've always got to be resilient.
Very good stuff. And I know as you're sharing just about the events and all the different things that happen, I'm sure that Matt was probably appreciating some of that too with his role. So Matt, why don't you go ahead and wrap up this theme for us?
Yeah. What Annie said, I echo so much. I could relate to everything she was saying, and it's like she said. It's almost like when we do these, live production. It's you're in a storm. It's there's a lot. It's hectic. There's a lot of moving parts, and so it's being able to stay calm and keep your team calm, and trying to make sure that you help their resilience getting through those obstacles. There's going to be mistakes. Someone might press the wrong button for something. The camera guy might not realize that he's live on the screen, and he might whip you. So it's things like that, and it's really trying to also teaching others the resilience is also a part of my job. But I was going to share with you guys another story that I think some of you guys can, most of you can relate to, because obviously everything that happened with Kobe last year was something that everyone experienced, and it touched so many people's lives. And obviously working with the Lakers at that time, it was very tough. And when he passed away, I was tasked with making his tribute video. And it was something that I was honored to make, but nervous. And obviously dealing with all the pain, the grief that I was feeling just myself, and then my coworkers, my whole job place. It was just something I never want to obviously experience again. It was horrible. But I knew that I had to be resilient. I had to go through with it. I had to keep fighting. And so as I was editing this video, I had Kobe kind of talking me through it. I'm editing through interviews and stuff, and he's kind of motivating me, showing me his resilience. And it was like just an amazing experience. And I mean, I experienced a lot of tears making that video, seeing him kiss his kids every 5 seconds, going through footage and just seeing this amazing man kind of evolve throughout the footage I'm looking at. But I think that the lesson I would say with resilience is when you are going through those things and you're trying to channel the resilience, it's remembering that at the end of the day, when things are done and this too shall pass, you're going to come out, and all that you put into that work is going to pay off, and you're going to feel so good about yourself. And I remember after that video, and the very last night, I had to pull an all-nighter before it was airing. He passed away on a Sunday, and our first home game was going to be Friday, and the world was going to be watching. So I pulled an all-nighter the last night, finished the video. I was at the arena in my office, and just remembered laying on the ground, just completely emotionally and physically exhausted, and just crying tears of joy for what I completed for myself, but also obviously the tears for Kobe. It was just a lot of emotion, but in the end, I won my first major award for that, and all that I've been through there was payoff. And just if I can tell you guys anything with resilience, to just remember that. And that's what I have to say.
Yeah. Matt, what a powerful story. Thank you for sharing that and for being so transparent with all that you were going through too, but great example of being resilient in the moment too. And as you're talking to, you kind of remind me, because I interviewed Ryan last year at some point, and he was just talking about the passing of Kobe and just what that meant for him, and just dealing with that as well. So some great stuff, you guys. It's not, what happens to you is how you deal with it. It's teaching others to be resilient as well as yourself. And so, yeah, those are the two biggest points that came out of that for me.